name is Carson Seo, and the work of literature I've decided to focus on for today is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. The first choice I want to highlight in this poster is the colors I've used to make this poster. I've used the colors of dark green and black. As you can see, these are two both dark tone colors. And I've used dark tone colors to show the negative trait of irresponsibility of Victor Frankenstein that I will highlight in this poster. And let me turn your attention to this quote here. It says, "You seek for knowledge and wisdom, as I once did, and I ardently hope that the gratification of your wishes may not be a serpent to sting you, as mine has been." This is a quote that Victor Frankenstein says to Robert Walton, in one of his early letters in the book. And I've used this quote for my poster because it shows the journey of Victor Frankenstein throughout this novel, of how he started out as a curious scientist that was interested in the workings of a human body, but he didn't fully consider the impacts and the implications and the power he is responsible for carrying once he creates a living being, and which led to terrible consequences. And the fact that he didn't understand these consequences is shown when he says, "May not be a serpent to sting you, as mine has been," of how his curiosity actually led to more negative consequences and kind of stopped him from creating a better thing. And let's move on to the plot action here. So all of these photos that show the scenes in Frankenstein are from a movie called Frankenstein that was based on Mary Shelley's novel of Frankenstein, and it was produced in the 1930s. So we start off with an image of Victor Frankenstein studying science and making the creation. So scenes A and B and up to the scene up here. I've included these scenes to provide adequate background for the irreversible consequences I will describe in scenes C, D, and E, as irresponsibility is a characteristic that builds over time in the novel, so it's important to give a lot of background. In terms of scenes C, D, and E, they show the irreversible consequences that emerge from Victor Frankenstein's irresponsibility of abandoning the creation just because of its physical appearance in his lab. So scene C shows the action of Victor Frankenstein's creation trying to leave the lab by itself after it has been abandoned. So scene C and D show the same action. And scene E shows the death of William by Frankenstein, by Frankenstein's creation kills William. So I've included these three scenes to show the irresponsibility of Victor, as he could have easily prevented the release of the creation and also the death eventually by controlling the release, as he's the scientist that created the creation and he made it in his own lab. So there's no reason why he couldn't have controlled that creation, and therefore make sure that the creation is released in a more controlled manner into society rather than just abruptly that causes this immoral action. And turning back to this photo here of this drawing up here of Victor Frankenstein's creation, I've included this drawing because it's the central character that drives Victor's irresponsibility. It's where his irresponsibility originates from, as his irresponsibility mainly centers around the fact that he did not care for the creation adequately as a creator, and he abandoned it in his own lab. So it's the main character that we focus on when we discuss irresponsibility. And I want to turn your attention to this card I've included here that says irresponsibility. In terms of choices I made here, I've used capitalized letters to spell the word because I want to highlight this characteristic of Victor Frankenstein, as it appears continuously throughout the novel in many occasions. And in terms of colors that I've used to write this, I've used a red color because I want to show the negative consequence of William, a member of the Frankenstein family, getting killed by the creation because Victor didn't control the creation and didn't make sure that it was held accountable and that it didn't do terrible things out in the open. So the red color shows William's blood that was shed and the pain he suffered. Next thing I want to discuss is these two pictures that show why it is important for us to protect Frankenstein as a critical work for humanity. So this first photo shows a man trying to fly with wax wings. And this is an allusion to Icarus, the story of Icarus, where Icarus tries to fly with his wings and up to the sun because he thought that the wax would hold and that he could still fly. So this shows the story of and the concept of scientific hubris, as it shows that Victor Frankenstein was a bit too overconfident in his ability to create a creation and has underestimated the implications that comes along with creating and the power that comes from being a creator, which led to these terrible consequences as he did not know the appropriate response on what he should do after the creation was made. And turning back to this picture of a person holding a globe, this picture shows the concept of excessive power, of how Victor Frankenstein had too much power, and too much power he didn't know how to control, of being a creator. So I want to highlight the danger of excessive power, as because we don't know how to handle it, we have never experienced it. It's hard for us to be responsible in managing that power and making sure that our actions are held accountable by ourselves. And that's why also scientific hubris is important, because we aren't going to be accountable for our actions. We're underestimating the important effects that comes along with our actions. And to sum it all up here, I've included this theme statement that says, Frankenstein portrays the idea that irresponsibility can lead to irreversible consequences. This kind of summarizes the whole project here, as it shows that it states that irresponsibility, so Frankenstein's abandonment of the creation, leading to irreversible consequences of Frankenstein's creation unknowingly killing a human and committing such crimes. And lastly, just as a note, I have used a poster to display this presentation, as it provides enough space for us to discuss the whole plot sequence that leads up to the irreversibility of the reactions and the consequences. And I've chosen to analyze a character, as this is a continuous character that appears in the novel. Thank you.